While the United States is in the middle of a campaign to elect its next president, Brazil is in the process of getting rid of its current one. Dilma Rousseff has been suspended from office and will face an impeachment hearing. Meanwhile, the country's farmers are weathering the political and attached economic uncertainty while harvesting their lower than anticipated corn crop. DTN's Alastair Stewart covers the agricultural scene in Brazil and Argentina. He joined us Wednesday from Sao Paulo to discuss the impeachment's possible impact on producers, the future for crop sizes in Argentina, and the outlook for Brazil's second crop corn harvest.
The harvest has just begun up in Mato Grosso. It started a week early, basically because of the dry weather conditions. That's the big story in the second crop corn this year. For the first time in many years, we haven't had ideal conditions for the second crop corn, with particularly dry weather in April, just when the corn was going through reproductive phases. So we're looking at significant losses. Farmers are talking about production somewhere between 52 million metric tons, which is well down on initial expectations of about 60 million tons.
How will this contribute to Brazil's overall supply of corn?
Well, the supply of corn was already tight this year, mainly because Brazil has been exporting, very, very quickly. They've been taking advantage of the price advantage that they had because of the competitive advantage they have because of the devaluation of the Brazilian real last year. And also this year, when they sold large portions of this coming crop ahead of time for export. So they're caught in a tight situation whereby they've already committed up to 70% of this crop for export, and they're looking at losses that can be in excess of that in many cases. So it's a difficult spot.
What will the final crop sizes look like across the border in Argentina?
Well, Argentina also suffered weather problems this year. Not dryness, no. The excessive rain was the problem. Again, in April, over the northern part of the grain belt, they got deluges in April in regions like Cordoba, Santa Fe, Entre Rios. And as a result, they've seen significant losses. For the soybeans, they're looking at crops anywhere between 50 and 55 million tons, which is down from an expectation of around 60 million tons. This, of course, has led to exporters looking for Brazilian soybeans instead of Argentine soybeans, because the other aspect of the rain is that it's also severely delayed the harvest.
I want to talk about future production in Argentina. The USDA believes that Argentina is going to significantly ramp up corn production by about 25% next year. Is that realistic?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, that sounds like a big figure, but when you look at the numbers planted area in recent years, you've seen that Argentine farmers have been planting soybeans to as many soybeans as they possibly can, and really limiting corn planting as much as possible because of the system of tariffs and export restrictions that they had, as well as the devaluation. What we're going to see next year is a readjustment, basically farmers going back to planting more like the natural corn areas for rotations and so forth. That corn area figure will also be boosted by the fact that margins for corn are probably better than for soybeans or for wheat at the moment down there.
Let's talk about what's happening in Brazil now with its president, Dilma Rousseff. Update me on where the impeachment proceedings are and what's the impact to the agricultural economy from this.
Right. Well, Dilma Rousseff was suspended at the start of the month after a vote in the lower house and then the Senate. She's suspended for 180 days, and her vice president, Michel Temer, has taken over. There will be a definitive vote in 5 months on whether she'll be impeached, but most people believe that she's gone. Essentially, there's no after being voted suspended by Congress. They see little way in which she'll be brought back. That doesn't mean the end of the political instability. Of course, a large part of the population aren't particularly happy with the idea of a Temer government. Also, the economic situation is difficult, and he will have to bring in some harsh measures to kind of stabilize the situation. That's not going to be popular. Meanwhile, there's an ongoing corruption investigation that affects large parts of his cabinet. So, yeah, there's the instability will continue. That, of course, is bad for the business environment, specifically if we're talking about farmers, bad in terms of credit. Credit will be once again severely limited this year. In terms of operating credit, farmers have been resorting to barter trades, whereby you commit future soybeans and so forth to buy your inputs. But the real kind of longer-term impact will be on the investment. Obviously, you see farm equipment sales are way down, and people just aren't investing in the long-term strategies for farms in the same way that they were over the previous 5 years. In the short term, what the Brazilian farmers in 2015 benefited from the instability because the Brazilian real devalued. We're not seeing that at the moment. That might happen in the future. They might get another bump, and as we've seen, they're waiting for these bumps at the moment, and they're very keen to sell on these highs.
The USDA will update its estimates for Brazil's corn harvest in its next supply and demand estimates, scheduled to be released Friday, June 10.